Hello, Widowhood. Our conversation today is with Miss Theresa McFadden. Her sister, Laverne, and I were friends. And when my late husband passed, she connected me with her sister, Teresa. And it was an instant match. The conversations we've had over the years have been so transparent. And I knew that Teresa would be someone to be able to join the Widowhood and talk, be sincere, and the things that she shared about her second husband. And come to find out, I did not even know that she had been a two-time widow. She held that back from me, but that's something that she shares with you. She shares about her ability to keep living even after the passing of her second husband. Let's get into this conversation now.
Many people talk about the ups and downs of married life, but no one really prepares you for life after your spouse passes away. Welcome to Widowhood Real Talk with Tina, a safe place for widows, widowers, and their friends and family to talk about love and loss. Find comfort as you listen to honest conversations between Tina and invited guests who've experienced the loss of their forever partner. Share their stories of love, grief, and healing. You are not alone in this journey. Join today's episode and discover a wealth of resources and learn how to connect with others who are traveling the same path. This is Widowhood Real Talk with Tina.
Hello, Widowhood. Let's welcome Theresa McFadden to the conversation. Hey, girl.
Hey there.
How are
How are
you?
you? I'm good. I'm good. I'm good.
I'm good. She's so moved. Like you can hear some jazz. I'm good. I'm good.
Life is good.
That is good. So, Teresa, who is Theresa McFadden?
Well, Theresa McFadden is a mother, grandmother, daughter, all around lady of travel. Teresa is a retired widow enjoying her life.
There's a lot right there. I'm not sure
Mhm.
where to start with. I'm going to start with the Lady of Travel. What is the
Okay.
Lady of Travel? What does that mean?
Well, in honor of my mother and dealing with some grief issues, I started my own travel company and I named it after her. So after retirement, I started to do it full time. And now I am just the lady of travel. I have a full-fledged travel company with employees, and we are doing great things with our people. With our people, we are traveling and showing people how important it is to see the world.
Okay.
And it's okay to travel alone.
Unpack a couple of things. So, how many employees and how long have you been doing the Lady of Travel? And what is it called?
Well, okay. Yes, I have three employees, which all are family, my daughter, my goddaughter, and myself, of course. And my daughter is our event planner, and she handles all the events and she handles it from the beginning to the end. And she travels with groups.
Okay.
And then I have my goddaughter who she handles all of our bookings and as well as myself and just putting everything in place. She's not able to travel as much as my daughter is, so we work it out. And I've been in business 13 years. It'll be 14 years in October.
Wow. Congratulations. And what is
Thank
the name
you.
of the travel business?
It is Ruby Red Travel, named after my mom. As I said before, her name was Ruby, and red is my favorite color.
Oh,
So
boom, boom.
yeah, to me it was perfect.
As we see you in the red today,
Yeah, a shade,
a shade of,
a shade.
okay, so educate me on the redness. What is your favorite shade of red?
My favorite shade of red is bright red. It's like
Okay.
it's very bright. I will say it's not blinding red, but it's noticeable.
Okay. So if you decorated, where does that color show up most in your life and things you've done?
Uh, well, when I was younger, it would always show up in my living room.
Oh, and she could put the head to
Yeah,
the side. Yes.
yeah. When I was younger.
Okay.
But now that I'm a little more settled, normally it's really not even in my house.
Oh,
I Everyone knows it's my favorite color because I wear it a lot. But in my new home, I
okay.
actually have a centerpiece in my dining room that's made out of kente cloth, and it has the red and orange in it. So yeah,
Okay. So
so
you
I'm
talked about,
gonna look forward to that, decorating
okay.
that.
You talked about being retired. Retired from what, if I may ask?
The Attorney General's office for the state of New Jersey.
In what
I
capacity?
I worked there as an adjudicator for immigrations for the Board of Nursing. And before that, I worked for the Department of Immigrations.
Wow.
Yeah, so,
You have seen a lot of things change in society, you being in that role.
oh, yes, I have. Oh, yes, I have. Yes. And unfortunately, I can't say for the good.
Yeah, I'm gonna save that for another podcast because that's like a whole conversation
Yes, it
right there. I'm gonna put a
is.
pin in that for later. It's like next year we're gonna
Mm-hmm.
pick that up. We can probably pick that up next year. I
Sounds
don't wanna,
good.
there's so much more to your journey before we get wrapped up in that. So
Okay.
you talked about being I think I heard you say be a retired widow.
Mm-hmm.
So tell me a little bit about the love story before we get to the widow part.
Okay, well, the love story started 32 years ago. And I was a widow at that time as well. And we were both single parents. And we considered ourselves the Brady Bunch. You know, he had three and I had three. So we combined those three and made six. And the rest was history. We, raised our children together and almost was inseparable as, you know, we just did everything together, you know.
Mm,
And you normally didn't see one without the other, unless it was, of course, at work. So
okay.
the retired part comes in. I kind of like forced my husband into retirement because he was, in my opinion, a workaholic. And the type of work he did was very dangerous. So I was like, I think you should retire. Yeah, I
Okay.
think you have the age, you have the years. Go ahead and do it. So we made an agreement. I had already started the travel company, so I was like, okay, I will teach you how to do travel. You retire, and then we'll do it together. I'll retire, and we'll just make this. We'll do this travel thing full time, both of us. But God didn't have it that way.
Mm.
But
You
that
said
was the plan.
you said a lot there. I want to circle back to a few things. Did I hear you correctly saying that you are a two-time widow?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Do you mind talking about your first husband?
Not at all.
Okay, tell us a little bit about him in that relationship and like what year
Well,
you met. I want, don't,
my
I don't want,
first husband I met in grammar school.
oh my gosh. Okay, yes.
Yeah, I met him in grammar school. We were raised in the same neighborhood. We got married right out of high school,
Oh,
and we stayed married for a while. He went into the military and came home. Unfortunately, not the same person that went
mm.
in.
So what is the
And
timeline we're looking at, like years, like when he went to the military? What about what year that was and what was going on?
1974.
Okay,
Yeah, 1974. Um, and as I said, once he returned back home, he was distant. He was just not the same person that left. He was not in war, but I can't explain what the change was.
okay,
But I will say that he was a good person. It's just that whatever happened while he was away, he couldn't shake it when he got back home.
okay,
And he went into a state of depression. And just his life just started to spiral out of control. So it just wasn't working for neither one of us. But we stayed friends. We stayed friends. We, communicated with each other, and we just couldn't be not live in the same household and be
okay,
husband and wife. But we never got a divorce either.
okay.
We continue to, I would personally say hopeful. that one day it might turn around,
Right.
But anyway, he passed away very young. He was a
Okay.
very young man when he passed away.
Do you mind talking about how he passed?
Uh, yes, I do.
Okay.
Yes, I do. And but I will say this, out of all that he went through, and on his last days, he did repent for a lot of the things that he had done in his life. And he I know that he never stopped loving me. So, and and our daughter. So he, there was just some things that he had some struggles. He had some struggles, and he had some demons that he was fighting.
That is so true. And I am sorry. Thank you for sharing that. I can tell that was not an easy thing to discuss. So I appreciate you being willing to talk about it. I think unfortunately, and you can tell me your perspective, in our society, the men often have to carry so much and they don't have a safe space to feel like they have an outlet to deal with the burdens of life. And not being in war doesn't prevent someone in the military from maybe having PTSD or different things. And back in 1974, there wasn't a big conversation about that may have given space for him to feel comfortable to receive the help he needed.
Absolutely. I totally agree with you on that. I mean, because so many times I was like, I would talk to him and say, well, maybe if we, go see a doctor, psychiatrist, or something, but there's such a stigma on therapy, you know, um, for us as a people that,
Mhm.
that he just refused to even think, accept that. So yeah, so he dealt with his struggles, and there's so many times that he would just conquer it and just, thought he was over it and would come out of it, and everything was going to be all right. But yeah, it just never did, and it never happened.
Thank you, because for people that are listening, that one couple of things that Teresa shared, the highs and lows, feeling like you're an emotional high and then it goes back down. And sometimes when you're in that high state, you may feel like this is not something I need to worry about. This is not something that I need to deal with. But some things that are heavy on us, they last so much longer than those
Mhm.
temporary highs and lows. And the stigma that you spoke about, whether it's the African American community or people that are very proud or feel like you're weak, there's nothing weak about identifying that you need help. If you've broken your leg and you're walking with a crutch, we don't say, I don't need a crutch. We get that help that we need. And
Absolutely, absolutely,
there's so much that
absolutely.
goes on in this mind. So I just
Mhm.
encourage people to seek out that mental health and that wellness to help
Right.
deal with the challenges of life.
Mhm.
So those are very important things. Thank you for allowing that conversation.
Not a problem.
How old were you when your first husband left this world?
Ooh, how old was I? 36.
That's very young.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I was about 36, between 36, 37. Yeah.
And at that point in time, what were your options or how did you deal with grief?
Well, I had children, and I had a very supporting family. So, I had to continue. I had to raise the children. I was still working for the Department of Immigrations. I had kids to send to college. I had, so I personally don't think I had time to grieve. And when I did take the time, or whenever, things would trigger, because we have these triggers, and I would think about it, and I would think about him. But I would, not too long after the process of my husband passing away, I lost my father.
Mm,
And then a year after that, I lost my grandmother. Then a year after that, I lost my mother. So, it was just like a domino effect.
right.
So, yeah, I think I grieved for everybody. I want to say 5, 6 years down the road. It just kind of like hit me that, wow, I looked around and everybody was gone.
Mm. It sounds like you had to roll up your sleeves and you had to just keep grinding.
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. Because there's so many things that we don't know, you know,
Yes.
and there's so many things that we're not prepared for.
Mm.
So, you do what you know to do and you do the best that you can do. And, and you make the best of a bad situation. And sometimes we don't even realize that it is a bad situation.
I can definitely see that. As you said, 5 to 6 years down the road, you're
Mhm.
jumping into these young children that you have to care for. You're jumping in at work. You're jumping in doing all the things that you need to do. And time can just go by so
Mhm.
quickly. And then you turn around and it's like you mentioned the word trigger, something can happen. And obviously, these people pass, but the cumulative process of it all. I think do you feel like sometimes we put grief off because we're afraid that it would just take us out if we just gave ourselves to it too much as different people pass?
Absolutely. 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 I mean, it took all of that. And yeah, I want to say 5, 6 years. It took all of that. And on my birthday is when it hit me that, everyone was gone because my mother, she had this, she did it for everyone, anyone she met. She asked you first thing, how you doing? What's your birthday? And she had a
Oh,
calendar. So she put your name on her calendar.
okay.
So, she's going to send you a birthday card.
Hmm.
And on that particular day, and normally I wouldn't work on my birthday because if you work for the federal government, it's a holiday. And if you come to work, it's time and a half. So normally I wouldn't work on that day, but that particular morning I got up and said, I'm going to work. And on my way to work, that's when it hit me. Wait a minute. My mom didn't call me. She's very hoarse and she always try to sing happy birthday. I said, wait a minute, she didn't call, and I just kind of like I just broke at that point at a traffic light. And actually people were blowing at me. I had to pull my car over into a Rite Aid parking lot and I just totally lost it,
Hmm.
but it took for that was my trigger, the fact that she didn't call me that morning and I had not received that birthday card. So that was the trigger to me releasing all of that.
Hmm.
Yeah.
How did it feel, or if you can recall? It seems like you remember this very,
Oh, I
very
do.
clearly. After that, what happened and how did you feel after coming to terms with all of that in the car?
It took a minute. It took a while. Actually, I had to call for help. I had to call for someone to come and meet me to drive my car back home. I just wasn't trusting myself to do any of that. And I went to counseling, and it was not a good experience. I will say that it was not a
Oh,
good experience. And I mean, everyone's experience with counseling is different.
yes.
But mine wasn't, it was not good because I felt like I was being, there was some form of stigmatization that was being laid upon me. Uh, my job sent me for counseling and the whole nine. But when I went to the counselor, number one, she had me sitting outside for like an hour past the time that I was supposed to
Oh,
meet
ain't
with
nobody
her.
got time for that when I'm already stressed out and on the edge. You trying to push,
Absolutely.
hold on, push me to the edge.
That part.
Yes.
That part. And, of course, I'm thinking, well, being a professional, being, okay, maybe she's with someone, maybe there is an emergency, you know what I'm saying? So
Right.
there's no need for me to be stressing about her being a little late.
Right. Because you could be the person in that room and someone could be outside waiting for you. Yes.
Absolutely. So that was my frame of mind at that point. And so when I was called into her office, I realized that this lady had walked by me several times while I was sitting there. And, I had asked the receptionist several times, like, is she here or, whatever. And so when I walked in, she says, "Oh, you seem to be angry." I said, "Well, I am. And I think you would be angry too if you felt as though someone felt as though your time wasn't important." I said, I've seen you walk past me several times, but I didn't know who you were. But I'm assuming that you knew who I was. And I am angry because I feel like you're wasting my time. So she's immediately said that I needed medication. So that didn't work well with me at all because you don't know me. But you
Right.
said I have anger problems, I have anger management issues. And I'm like, okay, so maybe I don't need therapy.
Therapy is like a hairdresser. I'm gonna say it. It's like just because that one hairdresser didn't cut right doesn't mean that we may not get another hairdresser. And I
Right.
think you do need to jive with your or connect or have that chemistry with the therapist or the counselor that you're going to see because you're about to fillet your whole soul. And if
Absolutely.
and if I think I would have been like another referral because but I could also see everything it took probably to muster yourself to be there. Don't want to be bothered no more. It's like
Exactly.
you
Exactly.
ruined this whole thing for me.
Absolutely, because this lady actually said to me, and it just tore my soul apart that she would even say, "So you're telling me you were," because this was about my parents,
Right.
and she said, "So you're telling me that you were raised in a two-parent household? Were you ever abused? Is that why you're angry? Are you kidding me?" I could not believe she even said
No,
that.
she just wasn't thinking. If I'm hearing you correctly, this black woman could have been raised in a wholesome household. And I'm just grieving not just, but I'm here for the sole purpose of what the
Absolutely.
compounded grief has done and where I'm at. And I'm looking for some tools to manage that.
Absolutely, because I said to her, I said, "Well, what I told you is actually what it is."
I said what I said.
Exactly. And this is it. Yes, I had a two-parent household. Yes, my mother took care of me. Yes, my father worked every day. No, my father did not abuse me.
Mm,
Okay. And I'm not angry because my parents died, because I know that with this life, we must leave it just like we came into it.
right.
So I'm not, I'm very much aware of what it's all about. Doesn't mean that it doesn't hurt any less.
That right there. I think oftentimes people try to separate those two into the idea of you're not understanding the reality of death or you're upset that they do coexist, that they
Hmm.
do resonate with each other. You don't s-
Absolutely.
you don't spend years in your lifetime with someone, you have a funeral and you just pluck through life and act like it doesn't impact you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, because only thing that I could remember sharing with everyone after that whole experience was, I just woke up one day and I felt like I was an orphan because
Mm,
I felt like everyone that I loved or that loved me unconditionally was gone, you
that's
know?
fair.
So that's, I felt kind of like left alone, even though I had children and,
Right.
close friends and, other family members, it still felt like, you know, amongst the whole crowd of people, I was still by myself.
And that, unfortunately, is something that's very common with people as we deal with grief. It is amazing how billions of people in the world, everything is going on. But when those that are closest to us are no longer in this world, we can feel alone in the midst of a gazillion people, not
Hmm.
feel like anyone can understand what I'm going to articulate when I say how I feel. And so then I think that makes us hold it in because the concern how that's going to be received when I really talk about how I
Right.
feel, which is actually why doing this podcast is so helpful. One, as I'm having these conversations like with you, there will be someone that will listen to this and they'll pluck out nuggets for themselves, whether they are grieving or they are the friend or family member of somebody grieving and going, I didn't know it was like that. Because
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately, until you've traveled that journey, you have no there's no theoretical practice like how that really works until you hear it from someone and really resonate with how that feels.
Absolutely. 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 I say this often. Until you walk that path, please, the best thing you can ask is, what can I do for you, or how are you doing? But until you walk the path, don't tell me you know how I feel, because you don't.
Mm-mm.
Because you truly do not know
You do
how
not.
I feel, you
So,
know?
Teresa, how do we get from experiencing that at 36 to even think about opening your heart to another marriage, to somebody? What was your road to that?
Well, personally, I just felt like, how I felt like I met my soulmate. Okay. We just had so much in common.
Okay.
We were so different, but we had so much in common.
Okay.
If that makes sense anyway.
Right. You don't have to have you gelled. The chemistry was there. Your interests could be different, but you together fit well.
Right. And first of all, I personally was not trying to get seriously involved with anyone.
Okay.
And he was persistent. He was so I mean, he was so persistent to the point where he would just show up at my mom's house for dinner. My mom liked him, so she was inviting him to dinner. Him and my dad was hanging out with each other from time to time. And then my dad was like, call me up and say, hey, why don't you meet me so and so? And then when I meet him there, I'm like, wait a minute, this is a setup. you know? But we actually gelled, as you said, we gelled, and it was good. It was
Wow.
good. I could not, and I wouldn't change not one day of it, not one day. I mean, the good, the bad, and the ugly, as they would say.
Girl, you can't be married and be with somebody if you don't have all that, if you ain't really, really married.
Right, right, exactly. I would not change 1 minute of it, not one. You know, and it replays in my head all the time. Before he before he actually slipped into a coma, the last thing he said to me is, I'm not afraid to die. I just don't want to
Mm.
leave you. So that stuck
Hold on,
with
say that
me.
again. Repeat
He
that.
said, he says, I'm not afraid to die. He says, I know I'm sick. I'm not afraid to die, but I just don't want to leave you. And I was like, but you're not going anywhere. What you mean? You're not going anywhere. But but then, also he made me promise him something. Okay. And I'm not going to say it the way he said it, because somebody might see this and they feel as hurt. But what he did say to me is this: we worship with a lot of people, we fellowship with a lot of women who are widowers, and I don't want you to be like them. He says, I don't want you to be miserable. I want you to realize that God is calling me. He didn't call you yet. So continue to live. He's like, and I want you to promise me that. And I was like, okay, but you're not going anywhere. Okay, I promise, but you're not going anywhere. And I'm like, well, we've been through this journey, and you're gonna be all right. We're gonna go home and you're gonna be okay. That's just not the way it was meant to be.
Hmm. A couple of timelines. You were 36 when your first husband passed. When
Mhm.
did you meet your second husband? About how old were
When I
you?
met him, I was 39.
Okay. And
Mhm.
how long did you guys date before you got married?
Uh, like 2.5 years.
Okay, that
Yeah.
was a chase. He was on the grind.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Now, how long into the
Definitely.
chase did you finally give in? Like, okay, I'm gonna date him. Okay, we'll see what this is.
Yeah. Yeah. I want to say maybe about 5, 6 months, something like
Okay.
that. I'm like, you know what? It can't hurt to give it a try.
Okay.
And and I mean, my mother just made it so convenient, because she was like, "Oh, I'll watch the kids for you," and, that
Okay.
type of thing. So yeah, yeah,
That is just, and not just to get married, you found love in a way that you didn't even know existed.
absolutely,
And you
absolutely,
made yourself open to the possibility that it's possible for someone to love me and to cherish me and for me to enjoy my life with them. The life, even though your second husband told you that, it seemed as if you knew that already from the experience with your first husband, that you didn't allow
hmm,
yourself to wither away in their absence.
absolutely, absolutely.
And with your second husband, a different type of grief, a different loss. And in words that, even though I have lost my husband, the loss of your husband, I cannot say I know what that feels like because that is unique to you and your spouse in that relationship and all the dynamics of it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, although he was ill, we were, I think spiritually I was prepared.
Mm.
Spiritually, I was prepared. Because realistically, I knew that, the chances of him surviving what he was dealing with was probably 10%,
Mm.
you know, and, of course, we pray for miracles,
Right.
we pray for miracles, but we also pray for strength. So I truly believe that um, God gave me both. He gave me the miracle because he allowed me to get him to a doctor that actually knew what was going on with him.
Oh.
Because for years we were going from specialist to this doctor to that doctor, and they kept referring him to someone else, and he was taking all this different type of medication, and he wasn't getting any better. And so I had a doctor who said to me, "Listen, I need you to do one thing. Take him, try to get an appointment. It's not local. I had to go into New York City." He says, "But it may be worth taking him over there." And I did. I mean, and then as God would have it, I called the same day and got an appointment the same day. And I was shocked because they told me it would be like maybe a week or two. And they called me back and said, "If you can bring him this afternoon."
That is
I'm like,
divine.
and I was like, "Of course." Of course. Yes, yes, yes. And I said to him, I said, "Listen, we're going to New York to the hospital over there." He was little reluctant, well, why I got to go there? Like, because that's where we're going, and I got my, I don't call him my stepson because I feel like my mom told me children are not steps.
Mm.
She said, "You step on stairways. You don't step on people."
Ooh.
Okay. So these are your children. If they're his children, they're your children.
Wow.
And
Okay.
she was adamant about it. So I don't call my children my husband's children. I don't call them my stepchildren. They're our children.
Okay.
The oldest son, I called him up. I said, "Listen, we're going to take your dad to New York." He says, "Okay, let's go." And that's what we did. And they tested him. They did everything they needed to do like that. Unbelievable. And all I said is, "God, if I had known this a year ago, if I had known this a year ago, would this have changed anything? Would his life that last year would have been different? What about it would have been different? And that the doctor there, she was amazing. She knew exactly what to do, how to do it. She told us no more of this medication. He was actually overdosing on medication. The medication was destroying his body more so than it was helping him because he had so many different medications that were interacting against each other. Yeah.
That will
So,
happen. That's something to think about when you're on a lot of and you're dealing with that to make sure that they're not conflicting, how it's impacting your liver or
Hmm.
other different things, your bodily functions, having to process all that medication and the repercussions. It's good she was able to identify that.
Yeah, she was, because I had an extensive notebook. Every doctor's appointment that he went to, I'm there taking notes. The type of medication, the doctor, what the doctor said. So, that old school shorthand came in handy.
But the sick can't take care of themselves. It's very good to have an advocate with you, is
Yes.
hearing different things and being proactive. So that's good you were able to be that type of person, that wife, and be there.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to say that I just personally feels like if you love someone, there's nothing more important than for you to actually be there, to stand, to have their back, to stand in the gap for whatever's going on, especially when you know that there are weaknesses. And most men don't like doctors. Most men, you got to almost drag them like you do a little kid. So, I'm not saying all, but most.
Right.
Most
There's
that
a
I've
trend
encountered.
out there.
Yeah, yeah. Most that I've encountered, that has always been the situation.
Right.
So yeah, I used to take time off of work. I would schedule his doctor's appointments around my afternoon lunch or something like that. And I was like, okay, I'll meet you there. You get there, I'll meet you there. And they knew not to start anything until I showed up. So
But
it's
that's what
like,
love looks like. That's what love looks like. It doesn't always look like a box of chocolate. It looks like,
absolutely.
if you have to take your car to the dealership at 6 a.m., I'm going to get up and make sure that I take you there and you're not catching the city transportation back. It sounds like when you make somebody know they are important, that anything else I have on my schedule, I will shut it down. It doesn't matter. You are my priority. I made a vow to you. This is how
Absolutely.
I show up in this love and this relationship.
Absolutely. And that's what keeps me going, even to today, is because I remind myself that I took that vow. I remind myself that I said in sickness and in health, that I did take the good with the bad and that I was there until the end. So that is what makes me feel as though what I did was the right thing to do, number one. And number two, that I have no regrets. I have no regrets of how I served my husband. They say, oh, well, how they say obey and people get uptight about certain things, but I served my husband.
I can relate to that. I think that when we are both serving each other, that's what
Hmm.
marriage becomes. It's not about what I can get from this person and what they can get from me. We've
Right.
decided to live our life, to intertwine our lives together, to
Hmm.
serve one another. What else am I here for? Because there's
Absolutely.
something beautiful when you sacrifice in the ups and the downs, the highs and lows, the goods and bad. When you roll over and know that person is like there for you no matter what,
Hmm.
you can't beat that.
You can't. You really can't. You really can't. I mean, I remember, see, and like I'll tell people when they start to talk to me about my husband or start to talk to me about our relationship, I'll say to them, listen, I remember when I tore my shoulder and I couldn't even put my clothes on. You know who dressed me every day? You know who fed me every day? Because I couldn't use my right hand. I said, so, you know, we did, that's just what, how we did things with each other. When the last child left home, we made a vow that we were not going to be sitting home cooking every day and eating in every day. So we would eat out like 3 times a week. Just go to different restaurants and do different things because there was no need. There was no need for neither one of us to be rushing home. We just, okay, well, we'll meet after work and, almost like we're dating all over again. We'll meet after work and we'll grab something to eat.
And then
Then
you
we
ain't
can
got to
go
pay.
home.
Isn't it easier to go to the restaurant when it's just two of you than the whole crew? Like, I've
Absolutely.
always wanted to get that dish, and now I have something to take home, and I can eat it the next day. You,
Absolutely,
you,
absolutely,
you have space to
absolutely.
do that because when you have all those mouths to feed, it's like, no, we gonna eat at home. We are gonna get an appetizer, maybe get dessert, but you don't even know what the inside of a restaurant looks like when you have small children a lot of times.
Absolutely, absolutely. But yeah, so we just started to just enjoy that time where, okay, everybody's gone, you know, no kids at home, it's just the two of us, and so there's no need. We'll get there. We'll
And
be home
dating
soon
again and kind of
soon
a
enough.
little bit more of the pursuing going on again.
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. So we got a chance to enjoy that moment, just that moment when it was just the two of us.
How long
You
were you
know,
married?
excuse me.
How long were you two married?
We were actually married 26 years, and together we were together 34.
Wow.
Hmm.
That is a lot of every day, 24 hours, and just loving someone.
Hmm. Oh, we had some battles.
Oh, I didn't, hold on. I didn't say, I said, you got to love somebody through them battles to show up the
Yeah,
next day.
yeah, we had some
I didn't say it
battles.
was sublime and peaceful and y'all was floating on clouds. I'm
I
saying
know
you
that's
love,
right.
look, sometimes I loved you easier, sometimes I loved you harder, but I still loved you.
There you go. There you go. There you go. Yeah, we had our problems, but we worked through them. We worked through them. We learned to pray with one another and for one another.
Mm,
And we also learned our boundaries, when it was time to just walk away, and let somebody breathe for a minute, and maybe we'll be able to work this out, you know.
wow.
So yeah, there was a lot of things there that, just made it a full circle.
Mm,
It made it a full circle.
that is beautiful. Teresa, how was the death of your second husband different for you than your first?
Well, the death of my second husband was, I mean, because I didn't get the opportunity to spend that time with my first husband like I did with my second husband. I didn't get a chance to um, nurture him and and help him through his illness, my first husband, because we were both young, and truth of the matter is, okay, you are going to do what you want to do, and I'm going to do what I need to do. And it's just, there's no need in me and imposing on you at this point. If you need me, you can reach out to me. But I still got a household to take care of. I still got kids to take care of. I cannot, okay, and will not chase behind you trying to figure out if you're taking care of yourself, because you you know you made choices, and these choices, I have to make choices as well. And so that was how our relationship was. So when he passed away, we were very good friends, and after being, as they call, frenemies for for a bit, you know and at the last, say, 3 years of his life, we had became very good friends. And we bumped into each other accidentally. Okay, accidentally, and it was crazy. He worked right around the corner from where I worked at, and I had not seen him. Then one day, I'm just coming out of my office, and I'm looking at this guy walking down the street, and I said, "Oh my God!" I said, "I think that's my husband." Because he had this distinct walk, and I'm like, "Hmm." I said, "Nah, that can't be," because the last time I seen him, then he wasn't looking like that. So I was like, "Nah." And then it just kept eating at me. So I called his name, and he turned around, and I was like, "Oh, it is you." So yeah, so we, developed a friendship at that point. From that point on, we developed a friendship that we had just totally lost contact with each other when it came down to that. And so the last 3 years of his life, we were friends. We were able to try to mend some of the stuff that had happened. You know, um, Even his friends he would say, "This is my wife," and they were like, "Get out of here." and, and they would ask me, and I was Yes, actually, I am his wife. We never got a divorce, so yeah, I am his wife. But with my second husband, we were able to, we were able to go through the journey together. When I realized that he was ill, and when he was trying to hide his sickness and different things from me, and I could see the difference in him. Immediately, I think I took on the role of that parent kind of thing. And, I was like, no, I'm taking you to the doctor. I'm making doctor's appointments. I'm doing all these things because I know that if I leave it up to you, you're not going to do it. So I went through that journey with him. I made sure that when I realized how sick he really was, that we were going to vacation. We're not going to put this off. We're going to go on vacation. I'm gonna let you experience some things that you've been saying that you were going to do but didn't do. So, and that is what we did. And the last thing, a month and a half before he passed away, we had just came back from a cruise. Yeah. I was like, oh no, that's what we're going to do. We're doing this. And I think if he had any final memories of anything when he could no longer speak, I'm sure that they were pleasant. I'm sure they were pleasant memories
Hmm.
because we really had a nice time. He enjoyed himself. We took a lot of pictures, so many pictures. And we did the professional pictures so that we would have those just in case he was not able to travel anymore. So yeah.
How did grief look different for you in both
Uh,
instances?
well, I was so busy. I had so many things that to do that I didn't have to do with the first husband. Um, you know, I have six grown children with grandchildren who are trying to, understand what had happened here. Then I had, people who didn't understand that we had already planned for. So there was no preparations that needed to be done. I didn't have to deal with like funeral homes and picking out caskets and any of that type of thing because we had already did that. When my mom passed away, and I said to him at that point, we need to get ready for whatever happens. And so that's what we started to do at that point. So, um, so when he did pass, fortunate for us, we have a friend who owns the funeral home. And I just picked up the phone and I called her. And I says, I need you to go to this place and pick him up. And she actually came in my house and got his clothes and everything. I had him just set on the closet. I wasn't even home. I was like, just everything is there. Everything you said he needs is there. So that made it a lot easier for me. But I tried to make sure that my husband had, as they say, his going home was something that would not be forgotten by anyone. So my husband was he loved music and he loved all types of music, but gospel music was his thing. And he would do like a two-step shuffle. When he would get happy, it was like no stopping him. He would just do like this two-step shuffle, and all the other ministries and stuff in the church would know, oh, here he comes. But he just loved gospel music. So all of the different groups that he would go and listen to, and the local gospel groups and different things, I had them all at his viewing. So we had a complete gospel concert the night before the service. While his family was coming in from all over, but as a matter of fact, there was a lady, they tell me, I didn't get a chance to meet her, but she thought it was a revival going on in the church. But she came in, she heard the music and seen all the cars outside. And so she thought it was a revival. She had no idea, but that was the way that I think that he would have wanted it to be. So yeah, so we pulled that one off. So like I said, I had a lot going on. So it took me a minute. Um, I want to say he passed in September. We buried him October the 1st. Maybe December was a little difficult as we were getting ready for the holiday. It kind of like hit me, because we would just go through this whole production for Christmas, and so I kind of like, tugged at me a little bit. I was like, well, okay, I guess I got to do all this by myself now. I don't have nobody to fuss with about the lights not being right, and now I got to do this myself. So, yeah, that was the beginning. That was the beginning of my grieving. That was really the beginning right there. And then, because my only concern was helping the kids get through, helping the grandkids understand, you know, because they were dealing with this in a totally different way. And here it is almost 7 years later, and I still have a grandson who is having such a hard time.
What year did
You
your
know,
husband pass?
it was 2016.
2016.
Hmm.
You seem to always be caring about how other people are dealing and putting yourself on the back burner.
Yes, that is who I am. That is definitely who I am, you know. And I don't know any other way, because I just feel like if I can make sure that everybody else is okay, then I know I'm okay,
Mm,
you know. But if I have to worry about whether or not you're okay, then that means that I'm not okay. Because
mm,
I'm going to be concerned about you. I'm going to worry about you.
okay.
And when I can get past that part of not worrying about you, then I know that I'm going to be all right. But as long as I see that you're troubled or you're dealing with a situation in a different kind of way, I need to be there. I need to try to walk you through. I need to try to help you, support you through this, because I know that it's something that you didn't, that you just wasn't familiar with. And this, even though my husband loved all those children, he loved every single one. He was the babysitter. He just, there would be times I would come home. He's like, "Oh, well, we watching." So I said, "No, no, you watching." No, 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 you are doing that, not me.
Right.
Because that wasn't on my calendar. That's on your calendar. So, and I would definitely hold him to that. No, you're watching, not me. But yeah, he just he had this love for his grandchildren. He had a love for them, and they had a love for him that you just couldn't touch, just couldn't touch it.
Mm.
You
So
know, and
after the first Christmas and the
whew,
grief started sneaking up on you, I know you said it
mhm.
was difficult, but what does that look like? Like some really granular explanation, like not being able to get out of bed, couldn't talk. Like, what did that look like for you?
Well, what it really looked like was, and I didn't realize that what it was that when I didn't clean out his nightstand, when I wouldn't sleep on that side of the bed, I could just get up and just pull up the covers on my side, and the bed was made. The dust, I'm just dusting off the books and the Bibles, because he had stacks of Bibles, all different types of Bibles that he was referencing and stuff. And I just take them, clean them off, and put them back as if he's gonna get up and read them. His clothes stayed in the closet for almost 2.5 years. And actually, some of them stayed in there longer than that. Some of them stayed in there until just in February when I moved.
What was the process like of removing his items?
Well, what I did, I called the boys. When I say the boys, I'm talking about the sons. I called them and I was like, "What do you want?" So you need to come and tell me what you want, and so that I can make sure that you get what it is that you want in your dad's. And that was how I started the process. But because my husband was he was a small statured guy. So I met a guy at church one day. He was a new member. And I'm looking at this guy, looking at him. And I said to him, I said, "You know what? What size you wear?" And he told
How
me,
your name is and what size you wear.
yeah, and he told me, and see, he had got a chance to meet my husband before my husband passed away. And when he was just visiting the church before he joined. And so he about a year went by, and I said to him, I said, he told us he was relocating to go to North Carolina. So I said, oh, really? Spoke to a lady at the church, and I said, I think I'm going to invite him to come and go through my husband's stuff.
Because
I
you
said,
won't
because
see
I,
him moving. You want to see him show up in church in it.
right,
Yes.
exactly. That was my thought. And I was
Right.
like, I said, so, I said, you don't think he would be offended if and she said, no, I don't think so at all. And so when I mentioned it to him, and I said, so you're moving to North Carolina. I says, I says, my husband has a lot of different clothes. And he says, oh yeah, I know your husband. He was a sharp dresser, blah, blah. So I used to always admire him. I says, great. I said, so, come, I gave him my address. He came over with one of the ladies from the church, and he went
Gotta
through the
have
things
that
that
third person. Keep it legit.
uh, there you go, there you go. And and I had told him, I said, listen, you're gonna have to come back because you need to bring a suitcase. I said, because he picked out a lot of stuff. I said, you don't have we have nothing for you to put it. I said, never mind. I went in my basement and got him a suitcase.
Okay.
Okay. It was like, let's pack this stuff up. And
Because you're trying
he
to be
might
one
have.
and done with that.
There you go. I mean, he could wear my husband's hats, his suits, everything. I could
Mm.
not believe it. I could not. It couldn't have been no more perfect. And the Sunday before he left to go to North Carolina, I came into the church, and I'm standing in the doorway in the foyer, and I seen this suit, and
No.
I was like, oh my God, I almost turned around.
Okay, because I'm not you. So you and all of that's supposed to be in the Carolinas. I'm not trying to see that here, and not in the church we went to. My
Yeah,
brain can't take this.
yeah, I almost turned around.
I
But
could see
then,
that.
and then when once I came inside, and I went to my seat, and after service, I said, you know what? I said, that suit fits you perfect.
Wow, to a T.
I said, it really fits you perfect. And everybody in the church was thinking the same way I was thinking when they see this one. Oh my God, he's got on a suit just like Deacon McFadden, like that. Actually, it was Deacon McFadden's suit, but
It is
yeah,
just like.
yeah, exactly. But I was like, okay, yeah. So, but then also the grief part of it was that I normally sat in the second row of the church because my husband was the deacon, and I was the chairperson of the deaconess. So I always sat right behind him. I couldn't sit there any longer.
That secondary loss, those things that are
Yeah.
just not them, but those things we lose because we lost them.
No, no, I didn't lose the position.
No, no,
It
but
just
that
was,
location, those small
yeah.
things that we kind of lose in their absence, those secondary
I just,
losses.
it just was too much. It was
Yes.
too much for me to sit there. And, I tried so hard, and I would just get up and just walk away. I go all the way to the back of the church. I was like, I just can't do this. I felt myself crying more in church than I was at home
Hmm.
because he spent so much of his time in the church.
Okay.
He was at the church when he retired from work. That's where he spent all his time at, in the church.
Hmm.
He was doing something. He was cleaning something. He was fixing something.
Something,
He
something.
was something, you know. And he was. If I didn't know any better, I think he was breaking stuff to fix it. But
Oh, you did that?
you know, but that's where he found his peace at. That's where he was at.
Hmm.
I knew that if I called him anytime after 9 a.m., he was in the church by himself in the church. He cleaning, he doing something, and whatever. So that's where his peace was, and so I found it hard. I found it hard to actually continue to worship because it was just becoming overwhelming. And so I kind of like stayed away from the church for a little bit. Then I went back, and I started working my way midway. Okay, I was like, maybe, midway I can do it. And I was like, nah, this is not working for me. This
It's
is not
like
working for
that
me.
because that
Yeah.
connection. I want to ask you, when the gentleman left with the clothes and you were there because the lady came with him, what happened? How did that go for you when he left with the clothing that day?
It went well.
Okay.
Unbelievably, it went well. I actually I felt good.
Okay.
It really went well. But then I had to, of course, then I had the concern that my husband's son is going to say, well, you didn't ask me if I wanted that, or or that he was going to circle back and say, well, I think I want so and so, and I didn't already gave it away, you know. So that became an issue, and it just as I thought it would, it did. It became an issue. But I was like, okay, but I gave you the opportunity to get whatever you wanted when you were here. You know, I made sure that, before anything, you had the opportunity to do that, you know. So I needed to get that done. I needed to get that done. And as I said, there was things up until just February of this year that I had not touched. I had no idea of different things that my husband had in the house, in the garage, and different things. I just didn't bother to even touch with it. I didn't want to. I mean, up until February, his nightstand was still the same.
Mm,
So I gave away a lot of Bibles and different things, books that he had, because I was like, I can't take it with me. Because the memories that I have of him will always be there. And, I don't need the book for me to know that his spirit is always there. So I'm like, I'm not gonna hold on to that. I
that is
can't.
beautiful.
I can't. Not for and for my own sanity, you
That
know.
right there,
Mm-hmm.
that sanity, that
Mm-hmm.
idea of I have to live in the life that I have now. Not
Mm-hmm.
that I don't miss them, I don't love them, but that is
Right.
not the life that I no longer have. And that's just the reality of it.
That is it. I mean, I made a promise to my mother that she would say to me all the time, if when I pass away, don't put me in that graveyard and don't come back. She said so many people just don't come back. The graves, don't be clean and this and that. So I'm like, I would never do that. So of course I would go and I clean everybody's grave because everybody was there together. And some days I would make it a whole day or I go Saturday morning when I look around Saturday afternoon, and I just then walk through the cemetery and I didn't clean this one, that one. And so when my husband passed away, he's like 15 steps from my mother. And I was gonna have my name put on the grave on a stone, right? When I had his stone made. And the guy he says, Miss, please don't do that. I was like, well, this is where I'm going eventually. And he's like, but Miss, he said, so he thought I was gonna do it to save money. He said it's gonna cost the same because we're gonna have to remove it. And I said, no. I said that it wasn't about the money. Oh, so I was like, okay, I won't do it. But it was just so funny the way he was like, Miss, please don't do that. Because I was like, well, why are you engraving it? You can go ahead and put my name on it.
But okay, I'm gonna pause right there though and just talk about you said about getting ready.
Mm-hmm.
Knowing what you know now,
Mm-hmm.
what would you recommend? Like, what are some things you wish you would have known that you didn't know as far as getting ready as what that looks like?
Well, first of all, when you are married to someone who has children outside of your marriage, or previous to your marriage, there's so much red tape. There's so much that you have to do according to whatever state you live in, county, whatever. There's, I'm sure in different states and counties is different, but in the state of New Jersey, there's so much. There's probate, there's bonds that have to be purchased. There's just so much, even if a person has a will. All it takes is for one person to contest the will, and it can go on and on and on. So I always say, you know, when my friends talk to me now, I just say, listen, you need to go over all your documents and go over them thoroughly. Make sure everything is notarized, make sure everything is witnessed, whatever. Because if you don't, you are looking at a journey that is not nice. It's not good. I went to the probate office in the state of New Jersey, and I took everything that, it said that I needed to bring. And as I'm sitting there going through the process, I broke down and started crying. Because now I've got everything in an envelope. And I thought this was going to be, very easy for me to deal with. And it was like a year later when I decided to deal with it. And now, I realized that I'm not really mentally ready to deal with this. And in the interim of all of that, of course, you hire an attorney because, and I was very clear. I'm not hiring you because I can't do it. I'm hiring you because mentally it's challenging for me. And I just don't want to do it. But I will tell you this, soon be 7 years. I just less than 60 days ago was able to probate my husband's will. So cross your T's, dot your I's,
The emotional roller coaster, the financial burden of 7 years of legal fees.
$15,000 and counting. Yes, ma'am. So it's not easy. It's not easy. $15,000 with one attorney. And that has nothing to do about the other two attorneys that I've had that didn't do the job. So there's so much that you have to do. You have to do your homework. And so it's best to do the homework before than to have to do it because during the time that you're dealing with the grief, you're not mentally ready. And unfortunately, people take advantage of a situation. And I was one of those people that got taken advantage of. They took advantage of my grief. They took advantage of the fact that I didn't know and that I just felt like I didn't have to know because I'm dealing with the legal system. I'm dealing with people who this is what they get paid to do. So why do I have to know all of the ins and outs of your job? I came to you with what you asked me to bring to you, and that should be enough once I give you the check.
And I want to talk about just for a moment, you have been a professional, you are astute, a knowledgeable woman, but the weight of that grief and that fog, it will take you outside of yourself. You're functioning, you're moving, but everything in your head is a fog. It's like you're subpar to what you know yourself to, your thoughts to be crisp, your ability to make decisions and be aware. It's like you're just kind of hovering. Or how would you describe that mental state that you're in? Whatever it is, maybe 6 months, a year, everybody's different, but in just the pressures of life, that impact.
I looked at it as being here but not being here. Going through the motions, everyday life. You're here. I see you. We're talking. We're having a conversation. But if you ask me 2 hours later, did we have a conversation? What was the conversation about? I may be not able to tell you at all, you know, because not only are we dealing with the grief? We're dealing with just everyday life, you know? And some people forget that, okay, you have to continue to live. And I really can't take on your burdens, even though I may have taken on your burdens in the past. I can't take on your burdens at this point. But because you're so used to me doing it, you just kind of like, and I just sit there and listen. And then, if you say, well, what do you think about this? Or what do you think about that? I'll tell you, I don't know. Let me think about it. And that's basically because I kind of like checked out on you.
You're like, what did you say though? But
I'm that
it's
person.
one of those. I think you got what it takes to handle that yourself.
Yeah, right. I'm that person that that wakes up 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning and remember the conversation. So I didn't remember it 2 hours after the conversation, but in the middle of the night, it'll come to me, and I was like, oh, okay. Okay, let me just make a note that I need to call that person back and tell them this is, but just at that moment, you check out. You just, you just check, you just go through the motions. I mean, my husband died in September, October, and they expected me to come back to work. And I attempted around the end of October. I went in my office, I looked. Nah, I'm not ready for this. I turned around and said, well, I put in for another leave of absence. He said, but you just got back. I'm like, yeah, but I'm not ready. And I knew I wasn't ready. So I left. And in December, I was supposed to go back to work. Actually, December the 8th, I think it was, I was supposed to go. December the 8th, I put in my retirement papers. I said, I can't do it.
And how old were you then?
Excuse me?
How old were you when you retired?
I was fine.
No, how old were you then?
Oh, I was 62.
Oh, girl, you was ready anyway.
Absolutely. Absolutely. See, because that was the plan.
Okay.
That was our plan. Our plan was that I would work until I turned 62. And I would go ahead and retire, and we would do the travel agency together.
Now so you're executing your plan and not our plan.
Right, exactly. So that was the plan anyway. And I was like, I'm not doing this. I just can't do this.
Things have a different sense of importance or lackluster when you lose someone that close. It's like, this may be all I have, and this is not what I'm going to spend it doing. We look at things differently, I believe, when you've lost someone like that.
That is so true. That is so true. I mean, because when I went back in my office and I went to my director and I said to him, before you hear from anyone else, I said, I'm sure they haven't told you yet, but effective February 1, I'm officially retired. And he looked at me and said, really? I said, really? So he says, well, thank you for telling me. I says, you're welcome. You're welcome. Because I felt like we had that type of working relationship that I should give you the heads up that this is what I'm going to do to prepare you so you don't get sidetracked or somebody, you get hit up across the head with, oh, well, now what am I going to do? Because see, I was a one-person department. If you need me to train somebody, if you need me to whatever, now's the time to tell me this, because February 1st, I'm gone.
Once again, thinking of other people.
Yeah, and I was like, but I have so much time I have to take before I can retire. So actually, January 1st, I'm gone. I won't be back. I'll come back and get my things. Sign the last paperwork that I need to sign, but I have to go. I have to go. And so many people at work would say stuff like, so what are you going to do with yourself? What are you going to do? Why are you retiring? What are you going to do? And I said, live. Simple as that. Live. It doesn't get I can't tell you anything other than that. I'm going to live. I'm going to live the dream. I'm going to follow the plan. The plan was you turn 62, you need to retire. I turned 62 in August, but because my husband was sick and I knew that I need that medical insurance to cover his illness and his doctors and all of that stuff, I stayed on to the job to make sure that he had the best that he needed to have for his so he would not be laying in his on his sick bed worrying about
Oh,
how I was going to pay the bills.
no.
So that was not going to happen. So no, I stayed a active employee until there was no need for me to do that anymore.
And what does living look like for Theresa?
Well, Teresa has just turned into a whole different chapter of her life. I
Okay.
moved, I moved out of a city that I had been in all my life, born and raised in the same city. So January, I made a decision to sell the house. The house was the house that my husband bought for me for a wedding gift. And I decided that it was time. It was time to let go. The house was bringing a lot of grief, a lot of despair, and I just was like, okay, it's time.
Was it despair in memories or just the legal ramifications around the house?
It's all the above,
Okay.
all of the above. Was bringing tension and stress between the family and the children, and it's just a lot of stuff. So, and everybody was dealing with their grief differently.
Yeah.
And how I'm gonna sum that up.
Okay.
That, they were dealing with the grief of losing their loved one, but because I was still living, I was the victim.
Mm.
I'll be that. And but I went on a cruise December 16th of 2022. While on that cruise, it was a 7-day cruise. I went alone. While on that cruise, I spent like 3 days in my cabin. Room service. I came out every once in a blue moon, but sat in my cabin and I prayed. I just communed with the Lord. I had to get some kind of clear answer on what I needed to do. I did not want to end 2022 and go into 2023 with all that turmoil in my life. I needed it to come to an end. So that's what I did. So for 3 days, I was like, okay, God, I'm listening. I'm here. I just need you to tell me what to do because I don't know what to do. Sometimes we have to surrender. As much as I like helping everybody and thinking that I can do all of that, and I know that's one of my downfalls, but I do know that sometimes I have to just stop and stand still and know that, that there's a higher power. So that's what I did. And it came to me as clear as day. Get rid of the house, sell the house. As many times as I tried to, no, that's not the way. That was the answer. So I called my attorney up and I says, listen, I'm going to sell the house because the house was what was holding up the probate, it was holding up everything. So it's like, okay, let's sell the house because it's got too much trouble going on. If it had been peaceful, wouldn't have been no problem, but it wasn't. And it was disturbing my peace.
Mm.
So I was like, okay, called the realtor and they said, are you sure? I said, absolutely. My house sold in 7 days. Unheard of, as most people tell me.
Wow.
It was under contract within 7 days.
The market was popping.
Under contract, but the house just closed today.
Today?
Today.
How does that feel?
I don't feel.
It's surreal. It's got to be just so much in everything and nothing.
I don't feel. And at least not yet.
And here you having a conversation with us. Okay.
Absolutely. Because see, the house was supposed to close in February. I moved out of the house as soon as it was under contract. I found somewhere to move within 2 weeks. I packed up over 16 years of my life.
That was an emotional roller coaster in a short period of time.
Absolutely. In two
Wow.
weeks almost.
You haven't even
So
caught up from that yet.
there you go. I'm still living out of boxes. But but at the end of the day, yes, I made God made it very clear that's what I needed to do. So I was not going to turn back. I was
When
not
you
going to
have
turn
that
back.
direction, you know you cause yourself more harm than good when you have clear insight. So
Right.
selling the house, what else does living look like for Theresa?
Ah, well, like I said, I'm in a new location, a totally new area, learning the area, loving it. Loving it. I'm in, the southern part of Jersey and the more of a suburban type lifestyle, but and I'm loving it. I'm loving it. I do have someone in my life,
Girl, you
let's
about
be clear.
love.
Let's be clear. I do have someone in my life.
Okay, let's back.
And
We're not gonna scoot past that. How? How do you have this ability to keep loving and keep being open to the possibility? Some people like, that happened. I'm never gonna do it again. I'm a widow forever. Woe is me. That's fine. And they never even want to think about treading, especially after you feel like that was your soulmate to be able to love again. How do you have space for that in your heart? How do you do that?
I can't imagine how I could not, because I just truly believe that we go through a process, and after going through the process, we are not meant to be by ourselves. We're just not meant to live alone. And you can go through the process and say, well, I'm gonna this is what I'm gonna do for the rest of my life. But who are you to make that decision? You can make the decision of what shoes you're gonna wear, what dress you're gonna wear. But God makes the decision about your life.
All right, I'm gonna
And
spill a little bit of tea right here. So when you and
mhm,
I first connected because of your sister,
mhm,
you were not thinking about a relationship.
not at all.
You were thinking, oh no, to the no, no, no.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And and that's how I truly felt, which I shared with you. I was like, you know what? I can't do this no more. This hurts. It's
Exactly.
just too painful. It hurts too much.
So what was the shift? What was the thing that said, I think I can maybe?
Yeah, I think I can do this again. Well, the thing is that, how just as my husband was very persistent. There's something about someone who's being persistent in your life, about doing things. And I was like, really? So, okay. Kept, let's go out. What happened?
Oh, you had another stalker?
Not a stalker, not so much a stalker, but what had happened that turned the whole situation around was COVID.
Oh, okay.
COVID, because I had met this gentleman before COVID, actually, right before COVID.
I remember.
And you remember that.
Yes.
Yeah. And
You
then COVID
called me
happened.
and we were talking about something. And I was like, hold on for a second. I think I heard something that you're trying to slip by me real quick. Like in the conversation, like, I don't think so.
Yeah, and I was like, okay, so I'm still going through the process. And he was the person who said to me, listen, would text me, he would call me, and he's like, hey, how are you doing? I know it must be difficult. You lost your husband, and now you're locked in the house, what? And and he would, and some days I would answer, some days I wouldn't. Most of the time I didn't. And then, I was like, wait a minute, he's got a point here. I am so we started to communicate during COVID. And after I just had to just come up out of myself and just say, you know what, you know, this is not going to work for you. And and once COVID started to, once things started to lift up a little bit, we started dating. We started going out to eat and different things such as that. And the story continues.
And love blossoms.
And the story continues. Yes.
That is
The story
beautiful
continues.
that life keeps lifing if we allow it to.
If we allow it, if we allow it. I mean, I could have kept the door closed as I had in my head and in my heart that it would be always closed. But there's certain things that just happens that will just make you just wonder why are
Mm,
you doing it that way? And when someone shows that type of attention, even though they know your situation, and they still, you know, decide, well, let me just check in on her, see how she's doing. You know, we're 70, 80 miles away from each other, but let me just check in and see how she's doing. And that meant a lot to me.
there was a lot of driving, a lot of back and forth, a lot of
Yeah, after COVID lifted up, oh yeah, we definitely did that. We definitely did that. And it was good. And it was good. And it
wow.
turned out to be very good.
Yes.
Yes, it turned out. But marriage, will I get married again?
I wasn't
Is that
asking that question. I ain't asked
good?
that.
Don't.
You said what?
That's a good don't.
No, 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 no. I'm not asking that question. I am excited that you have opened your heart to love to present itself and receive it.
Yeah,
And you, like you said, you are living your life. I think it is amazing for your husband to give you the gift to say, God called me, not you, and I want you to live. There's something every woman, every spouse may not have, that they may guess, they may wonder, they may hope that their late spouse won't be upset or the world won't get mad because I've decided to keep living. I feel like the world gives widowers the opportunity to keep living, but us widows don't always get the check off by friends and family and society that I'm still alive and I need to
absolutely.
live. Did you have
Absolutely.
any challenges with family or friends with the idea
Yeah, I
that you were
did.
continuing to live?
I did.
How did you navigate that?
Well, I don't know if I can actually say how I navigated it, but anyway, you know,
You said they over there, they feel this feel. You doing you. That's what I heard.
anyway, no, I did have, I had some ladies of the church, the same ones that I think my husband might have been referring to.
Whoever hypothetically those people are. Okay.
Hmm. And, like, oh, I know you're not already. Yeah, I am.
I'm living.
And what's wrong with it?
Mm.
And I'm sure you can't see, because I rather tell you what I'm doing and be upfront with who I am and be comfortable with what I'm doing versus sneaking around corners
We too old for that, child.
doing the same thing that I'm doing, but just undercover. So
Right.
no, I'm not going to do that, because see, first of all, I'm a grown woman. I'm responsible for myself. So I don't have to answer to anyone.
With all
But
the grown woman eyes, I see the eyebrow going up like,
yeah, 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 that part. Yes, yes. I mean, when you've been through what I've been through, I think I deserve that. I think I deserve, my grandmother used to say things like, I earned everything that I got, and everything that I say, I'm grown enough to say it.
mm.
Okay. And I didn't quite understand where she was going with that, but I do now.
Oh, okay.
But I do now.
I
Yes,
ain't
I
messing with
do.
that. I am
you
not
know,
messing with
because,
that.
I don't owe you an explanation of why I chose to do something. If I give you an explanation, it's because I want you to have it, but not because I owe it to you, because it's really none of your business.
Girl, I'm gonna scratch my next question off personally. I don't know if I got the right to ask the next question.
And I let you interview me because I don't mind you asking. But there's people that ask questions not because they have any concerns at all.
Mm.
It's just something for them to be nitpicking and talking about.
Yeah,
And I
you have
really
learned
don't
who
have,
I am over time.
yeah, I don't have time for that. I don't have patience, first of all, for that. See, because whether you know it or not, just because I'm smiling on the outside, don't mean that I'm not hurting on the inside.
Mm.
Don't mean that I'm not still grieving on the inside. Don't mean,
Right.
all of that doesn't, just because I've chosen to move on does not mean that I have excused or dismissed anything that has happened in my
I think that
past.
is so valuable because you are moving forward with your life doesn't mean that the price of loving your first husband, your second husband, still doesn't resonate in you. It
Absolutely.
still is, it still doesn't impact you. It will forever impact you, but it doesn't
Absolutely.
prevent you from moving forward and living your life. You
Absolutely.
you have
And,
chosen
and
not to stay stuck in that situation. And everybody has their own grief journey. But for you, the idea of continuing living has been phenomenal. As you were speaking and you talked about vacation, some people hear the word vacation or cruise and it just seems like something to do to get away from work. When I hear you talk about vacation and travel, it means I hear so much more in what that looks like, the memories, the life, the seeing the world that God has made. What does it look like for you when you say vacation and for you to travel? That the average person isn't getting.
and, all the, what it looks like for me at this time in my life is that there's so many things that I didn't get an opportunity to do as a younger woman, that I promised myself that if God gave me the time and the resources to do these things, then I'm going to do them. If it's not meant for me to do it, He wouldn't provide for me to do it. And because I love dealing with people so much, he, I just feel like that was an extra bonus, because now I have the travel company. I travel with people. So my business says, hey, okay, I'll travel with you because I don't want you to have to deal with anything that may go wrong during your vacation, because this is your vacation. What it is for me, it's a working vacation. That's what makes it different. That's what makes vacationing for me, is that I show someone else how to experience it from a different level. Where I'm not just putting you on a plane or putting you on a boat and say, okay, well, I booked this for you, so now you go on. I'm not doing that. With every client that I've had, and I've had some of them ever since I started this business, everyone, I have their itinerary from the beginning to the end. They know how to reach me, I know how to reach them. And I've tracked their flights. I make sure that they're checked into their hotel, even if I'm not traveling with them, because that's what sets me apart from everybody else.
You're
So
creating a
even I'm
travel
vacationing that
experience,
way.
not just making travel plans for people.
Right, exactly, exactly. And it's because I love good customer service. You know, I don't like to talk to people that I'm talking to Tina today, but tomorrow I'm talking to Shirley, and Shirley don't know what Tina told me. So therefore now we got to start all over again. I don't like that. I like to be able to give people that peace of mind that, hey, I told Teresa this, and Teresa took care of this, and I told her this was my desire, or this was my need, and she took care of it. And I don't have to worry about it no more. That's what I want people to experience,
It sounds like
and
you're
that's
doing
what
that.
makes it good. Yeah, that's what makes it good for me. It makes me happy when I know people can experience that. I mean, I just had some people that just traveled just last week, and all they could say was, you know what, thank you so much. When they arrived at the resort, I was already there. I went a day ahead. And they were like, everything just went, well, you made sure that we had our paperwork. Those people who are not familiar with or don't want to do stuff online, I printed out their stuff and mailed it to them. So they had their paperwork in their hand. So it was just smooth sailing. And that's what makes me happy. And like I said, if I did it for someone else and I took care of people for many years in the workforce in my professional life, why can't I do it for myself? And
So
that's
Teresa,
my desire, is to make everybody else happy. And
that is
in
your
time,
that is who
yeah,
you are. Wow, it
yeah, in
shows
turn,
up.
I'm happy.
So do you work with people only in New Jersey or
Oh
where are
no, all over the world,
you? Okay.
all over the world. I, you know, I actually we're getting ready to go to Portugal soon. I've had people from California, Arizona, everywhere, and there's no limit. When I went independent with my business, I did all the research. I had already worked for someone else in the travel industry. So I know exactly what's lacking, what's not, and I know also what I need to do. And I know where I wanted to make mine a cut above the rest. So, yeah.
Oh. So if someone wanted to connect with you for your services, how would they contact you?
Well, they can go to my website, which is rubyredtravel.com. They can email me at info@rubyredtravel.com. Everything is Ruby Red Travel. You can believe that.
Okay.
We're on Facebook, we're on Instagram. Our event coordinator, she's on LinkedIn, and her name is Latrice Lane, which is my junior. And so if you go to rubyredtravel.com or Ruby Red Travel LLC, you will connect with us. And we have an office that is open 6 days a week.
Wow.
And yeah,
So
so
Teresa, few more questions. You have been wonderful to talk with. I've enjoyed this conversation.
thank
A, f-
you.
a few more things. One, what gives you hope?
Waking up every day.
Mm,
Waking up every day. I have challenges that, may not look like it, but I have challenges. I have osteoarthritis stage 4. So there's days that I wake up and it's hard for me to even just move my body,
mm.
but God, so yeah, so that's the beginning. That's the beginning right there, is that I refuse to give in because see, this is my legacy. So I have to fight. I have to fight. I have to stand for something. And this is it.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's what that looks like for me.
If you were to give younger Teresa advice, what
Mm,
era of your life would it be and what advice would you give her?
okay. It would be, say, I would say in the spring of my life, in my early 30s,
Okay.
early 30s, yeah, mid 30s, early 30s. The advice that I would give myself at that time is to not spend so much time worrying about what other people think, but just moving on, knowing that I was doing the right thing. Not so much trying to worry about who was going to like what I did or didn't do. Because at that in that phase of my life, I was dealing with what some people would call the failed marriage. Raising children by myself, working hard, and and trying to be a people pleaser, more so, because at that point in your life, you want to make sure the kids got to look a certain way, you got to look a certain way, because this is what is expected of you. You're not supposed to have a bad day. So that's the advice I would give myself, is not to worry about what others think, as long as you know you're doing the best that you can do.
That is some good advice. Teresa, any closing comments or whatever you would like to say to wrap up this discussion or advice you want to give?
Yes, there is. And that is, I would like to know that what this conversation has been helpful to someone, and that there's millions of women and men out there that are dealing with the death of their loved ones, but there's still life. We still are living. Yeah, and we don't allow anyone to tell us how long to grieve, because people are very quickly to tell us, oh, you're still going through that? Well, yes. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to say, yeah, I am. And I don't know how much longer it's going to be. But when God says it's over, it's over. You know, and if it's any concern of yours, or if it's bothering you that I'm still going through, it's okay. You don't have to check on me no more. It's okay. It's okay. Because I'm going to go through until I get through it. And that's just it. So those are things that I had to go through. I had to hear people say to me, which was just crazy stuff, like, "Oh, you're still crying," that type of thing. Evidently you've never lost anyone, or maybe you never loved anyone. Who knows? Who's to say? I don't know. But what I do know is that the tears are going to still flow, and I'm not ashamed that I'm crying. So, I've been at the traffic light and just start crying. You know, it happens. It happens. And I'll tell everybody when people, oh, I was, the light, I was waiting for the light to change and I just started crying, you know. But they say that's cleansing. And if it is, I'm pretty clean. If it is, I'm pretty clean because I've done a lot of it. Yeah, I've done a lot of it. I truly have. So, I just say, don't let life pass you by. Just, live it. Laugh, laugh. Laugh when nobody knows what you're laughing about. Laugh, because it's good for you. It will help you. People will think you're crazy, but that's all right. Just break out and start laughing. It's okay. It's okay. Because you got to go through something. And if you've never been through nothing, hold on, it's coming. It's coming. Okay. It's coming. There's so many people, oh, they've never been through anything. Well, you're not living. Something's going on. But it's coming. And I feel for you that you've never been through anything as of yet, but it's definitely coming. And when it comes, I'm gonna pray for you. I'm gonna pray for you because I think I've had my share, but I know but I do know more is coming. See, I already know. The ground has been settled for me. I already know that this is not over. As much as I would like to say to everybody who's listening, oh, the house closed today and it's over, but it's not. See, because that was just the first part. Now we got to get to the next part. And this thing seems to be happening in levels. So, I'm just going to hold on, see what the next one brings. I don't know what it's going to bring, but, and, I can say to death do us part. I loved you eternally. And there was nothing I would give for my journey. Nothing at all would I give for my journey that I had with my husband. Nothing. There's nothing that I can't even imagine. I can't even imagine anything that I could compare it with, because there was so much learned. There was, a lot of maturing that took place. We went into it as not kids, but we were adults, young adults, and we came out of it as seniors in our lives, and yeah. And we always said we had 4 seasons. We met in the spring of our lives. We done been through the fall, so now we're in the winter. And as much as I hate cold weather, I'm gonna tread through this. I'm gonna tread through this. I'm gonna make this 4th season of my life the best that I can have it to be for me. Yeah. And I recommend that for everybody. Look at your life as seasons. When we were kids, that was our summer. We had carefree lives. It was summer. But we end up in the winter, and that's that 4th season. Love it, make the best of it, and have no regrets about whatever choices you make. Everything ain't gonna be good. Everything's not gonna be good, and every day is not gonna be full of laughter and sunshine. But guess what? Tomorrow is coming if we're blessed enough to see it. And when it comes, we'll do different than what we did the day before. That's all. That's all. That's the way that ends. Tina, I hope I answered all your questions.
and some, and the nuggets that you drop. Thank you for giving the widowhood your time, your heart, and your candor. Thank you so much,
Mhm.
Theresa.
You're welcome, and thank you for having me. And I'll be looking forward to joining the Widowhood and some of the other podcasts and just check it out. And yeah, chime in every now and again.
You've been a little busy.
Yeah, that I have, that I have, that I have, that I have.
All right.
Okay. All
Thank
right.
you.
Thank you.
Hey, widowhood. I am so glad for Theresa to be able to just open up and share. She was able to talk about her life, the challenges of having a blended family and what that looks like after passing of your spouse, her ability to live. And what she did not tell you, girl, about to be 70 years old on her next birthday. She is out here doing a dang on thing. I want you to be encouraged. I am sorry for the person that you lost that caused you to be here in this conversation, but I'm glad that you found us. I am glad that you're allowing us to be part of your hood. I invite you to take nuggets from this conversation as you make your own journey. I invite you to reach out to us at Widowhood Real Talk with Tina.org. Submit to share your journey. Submit a question that we can talk about on the podcast. Thank you for being here with us. Talk to you soon.
Thank you for spending another episode with Widowhood Real Talk. If you found the contents of today helpful, share the episode to anyone you know who may need it. Subscribe to the show and tune into Widowhood Real Talk each week. Then visit widowhood-realtalkwithtina.org to join the community and access additional resources. Remember, you are not alone in this journey.